Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays here on The Pagan Perspective, and it's actually a nice day today, so I am out on my enclosed porch doing this video. I'm so excited to have any amount of sunlight, but direct sunlight is actually really horrible for video making, so we're in the shade over on this side here. You got a reflection in the window, all of that, but we're happy to be here. We're happy to be someone outside in somewhat warm weather. This week, we are answering a question from Alta Graye, who also signed as Alexandra, so I guess either one of those names is appropriate, and they are asking us more about media representations. We've talked about media representations of witches and witchcraft and different types of pagans in the past on this channel. I think mostly it's media representations of witches, because there aren't a ton of representations of other types of pagans in a lot of popular media. They definitely do exist, but they're maybe not as prevalent or maybe just not as much talked about. We kind of have to search for them, and it's a lot easier to know about them if you are a member of those paths. So typically, someone who is a member of those paths will have a much easier time pointing out what those things might be and where those representations are. So we've definitely talked about this before, but it's something that is ongoing, especially since right now, again, we're having kind of a resurgence of witchcraft popularity in the world, and of course that naturally follows in media. But also, Alta asked some more specific questions this time that I thought were kind of interesting and worth bringing this topic back up as a revisited type of topic. The text of the suggestion will be in the description of this video as always, but I will also read it to you. It said, "Does the negative portrayal of witches and witchcraft in the media affect you? Does it change the way you present yourself to outsiders of the craft? Do you wish the media could portray witches in a more neutral way, or maybe make more documentaries about witches in the real world? Just some food for thought." And then they gave us a bunch of praise and admiration and love. Thank you so much. So, and mentioned that they are from Florida. So you are already nice and warm, most likely. Up here in Ohio, we have been very cold. So we've got some of these spring days, but we are definitely in an area where we will be expecting more snow and more cold, usually through April. That's not uncommon at all for us to still get snow early in May. So even though the vernal equinox is later this month, it doesn't really mean it's springtime here. But anyway, I'm just gonna go through this question by question, kind of line by line, and see where we go. So first, does the negative portrayal of witches and witchcraft in the media affect you? For me personally, yes, it does, because I identify as a witch and I identify what I do as witchcraft. So if I didn't identify in that way, then the portrayal, negative or otherwise, of those types of things would not directly affect me, because it wouldn't be about me and how I identify. So in that way, yes, negative portrayals of witches do affect me in the sense that it is how I identify, and if I'm going about in the world identifying this way and I'm meeting people whose only impressions of what that means, of what a witch is or what witchcraft means, are from negative portrayals in the media, that does affect me. And typically it just means the conversation could go a little differently. I might even use the media representations to have a conversation with the person, knowing what they already know and where they're coming from. So, for example, there are a lot of portrayals that I don't think are too horrible. Like, they might actually be a negative portrayal or kind of a negative representation, but I don't think they're that horrible because I can use them as conversation starters. Like, oh, well, do you know that scene from The Craft where they did this or they said this, or you know how in Charmed they do this? So they might not be fully accurate. Sometimes they might be somewhat considered more negative. Different movies and things out there portray things in a more negative way than others. but I think they're helpful as conversation starters. So in that sense, yes. In another sense, no, the negative portrayal of witches and witchcraft doesn't affect me because it's not about me, and it's very much not how I do things and what I do and how I live my life. So in that sense, again, when it comes to talking to other people about these things, it just has to be kind of a conversation starter, and then explaining, you know, that's the media, that's artistic license, that's playing on the fears of society, that's not representative of what I actually do. So yes and no. But going into the second question, does it change the way you present yourself to outsiders of the craft? Also yes and no, because no, it doesn't make me, like, for example, if there's a negative portrayal of witchcraft in the media and they wear certain things, or like if there's a strongly negative representation of the pentacle in media, it does not change me in terms of like, okay, well, I don't want to associate with that. I don't want people to think that's what I am or that's what I do, so I won't wear that anymore. It doesn't change me that way because I believe in teaching people reality versus media and artistic license and entertainment value and stuff like that. So no, it doesn't change how I present myself in that I don't try to avoid certain things because they have a negative representation. If that was true, I probably wouldn't call myself a witch. There are a lot of people in the world who still do not identify as witches because of the negative connotation of that word. So if that was the kind of reaction that I were to have, I very likely would not identify as a witch, and I would not call what I do witchcraft. I would be trying really hard to avoid those words and disassociate from those words. And some people do, but I don't. Does it change the way I present myself to outsiders of the craft at all? I would say maybe, in sort of positive ways. Again, it would just come down to utilizing the media representations as knowledge of what other people might already think of me, and then working hard to show that, you know, I'm a positive person, I'm a nice person, you know, whatever I think someone else might be thinking based on the kind of media that they've been exposed to. Because again, different types of media show things differently. Some portrayals are really outright like meant to be negative and meant to make you think that we're evil or that you should fear us or something like that. Whereas other representations, you're meant to like the witch characters, but it's just like totally inaccurate. So people end up having misconstrued ideas of who we are and what we do. So it really depends on what the portrayal is that that person has seen, or what I think they already think about me, which is just getting a little bit too in-depth. That's called meta-stereotyping. What we think other people think about us. Very meta. Next part of the question, do you wish the media could portray witches in a more neutral way, or maybe make more documentaries about witches in the real world? Yikes. This is one that I've been kind of back and forth on throughout my decade or a little over a decade of practice now, that I definitely go through stages where I think, like, why can't they just do things more accurately? And why can't they just, you know, like, instead of doing the reality shows where they've had pagans on and they really play it up, they really, like, make them wear Renaissance garb all the time as though that's how they dress in their daily lives, and they make them wave around magic wands for everything in their daily life, you know, like, they just really play up the spooky, scary. Some people like the spooky, scary all the time. I do too, actually, and I love medieval fairs and Renaissance fairs. I'm not saying I never wear that kind of stuff, but I'm specifically thinking of, like, back in college when I was doing this research about prejudice and stereotyping as it relates to pagans and neo-pagans specifically, we looked up some examples of portrayals of pagans and witches in reality show media. Like, there was a pagan on an episode of Say Yes to the Dress many years ago. There was a pagan family on the Wife Swap show where they had basically a goddess-worshipping pagan woman, wife and mother, swap home lives. I think it's for a week at a time, or maybe it's for a month. I don't remember the show. It's been so long. They swapped her with a very fundamentalist Christian woman and made them live in each other's households. And I just remember watching the clips of it, and they were really playing up, like, every time you saw the pagan family, they were literally all in, like, Halloween costume, ritual garb, holding magic wands, looking very stoic, and there was an image that was edited in of a haunted house behind them, or I think it might have been a picture of their house, but there was a filter over it to make it look really dark and spooky, and there were like gargoyles that were moving, and there was strikes of lightning all the time, like every time you saw the family. So that's really how they were playing up like spooky, scary witches. So yeah, thinking back about portrayals like that, yes, I'm like, why do they have to do that? Like, why can't they just show people how they are in their real lives? That, like, yes, maybe we go to medieval and Renaissance fairs and maybe we wear some of that same kind of stuff as ritual garb, but we don't necessarily wear it to the grocery store. Like, we don't necessarily walk the dog, you know, around the neighborhood wearing that kind of stuff, you know. But then at the same time, it's like, well, I understand why they do that. It's for ratings because it's not that interesting to just watch people's lives as they actually are. And I think we disagree with that because we are YouTubers and viewers of YouTube, so we like the realness and the authenticity of seeing what people's lives are actually like, so we value that. But mainstream media and like television does not really, so I understand why they do it. Do I wish that they did more neutral representations? Sure, I think representation is important. Do I wish they would make more documentaries about witches in the real world? Maybe, but again, there's just been so many media things, like attempts to show pagans and witches in the past, and even in reality shows. Like, my partner and I watch a lot of the Gordon Ramsay, like, reality cooking competition shows, and even those, it's like absolutely ridiculous, the kind of situations that they really play up the drama, and they want to play up the arguments and the dissatisfaction and the just, you know, people acting crazy and all of this. So I really just don't trust that form of media to do us any amount of justice, even if they were trying to do a documentary. So I would have to be convinced that it was like being done by people who know what's up, or at least people who don't already dislike us or think that we're weird. Like, I know Mateus, one of our viewers, Mateus Cabot, has made a little documentary about witchcraft as a witch, and so that's cool. I think that if witches and pagans are interested in that type of research and representing the wider community, or even just their specific area of it, interested in filmmaking, documentary work, whatever, I think that that could be really cool. I don't as much trust people outside the community to do that same type of thing. Although there have been lots of scholars and researchers, I will say, who do not identify as pagan, don't consider themselves one of us or anything like that, but they don't automatically dislike us. You know, they're not coming into it trying to prove that we're crazy or weird, right? They're honestly like really curious about different types of subcultures and little microcosms of society and how we work, what is our culture, you know, all that. So there have been non-pagans who have done really good research type work, don't get me wrong. But yeah, like the general media, I don't know. I just don't know. Yes, I would like better representation, but also sometimes when I've complained about poor representation, there have been people on YouTube who have said actually that was 100% accurate representation of my path, because my path actually is dark and scary and weird like that. And like my path does actually involve demons, and my path actually does involve all of these other things that maybe the rest of us consider really negative or harmful because it's nothing like what we do. So even though I don't know anyone in real life who practices that way, I can't tell whether or not people on the internet are just trolling me. So I try to just keep in mind that, you know, that might actually be someone's path, and they might feel totally represented in these types of media that the rest of us are like, what the hell is this? Why are you doing this? What's going on? This is totally inaccurate, you know? So it's just kind of hard to tell. But yeah, this was a somewhat short video today, which is pretty good for me. 15 minutes, not bad. But yeah, this is a topic that we've talked about before that I think is one of the many that will always come up, because we're always having new representations come up in media. We're always having new trends come and go, and so these things come in cycles. So I do not delude myself into thinking that we'll never talk about media representations again. But I know that for those of you, and even those of us here on the channel who maybe don't identify specifically as a witch or with witchcraft, this can be a totally different type of question, because it's like, well, I'm not a witch, or what I do isn't called witchcraft, so is it really about me, or is it not? How much do we identify with the way that other people in the wider community choose to identify? You know, it might not be about us personally, but it's part of the wider community, so does it affect us because other people see us as more similar to those types of groups that are being represented in the media than maybe we actually are? Lots and lots to think about here. So thank you, Alta or Alexandra, for suggesting this topic again. Again, I chose to do it more so because you had very specific questions in here that I thought would be very interesting to answer, that maybe we hadn't necessarily touched on directly in the past videos that we have done about media representations. However, if you want to go back through our channel uploads, there should be a search bar function on our channel page where you can search the videos on our channel, search for key terms such as media, media representation, witches in media, witch movies, things like that. You should be able to find the videos that we've done in the past. And also on our blog, which is linked in the description all the way at the bottom of the description of the video, it is paganperspectivecollab.blogspot.com. That is a list of all of the videos that we've got uploaded on the channel, all the topics that we've ever done, and it is by year. So you can go through, there's a different post for each year, and you can use the find function, which like on a PC is Control F. I think it's Command F on a Mac. I'm not sure, but it's written on the blog because I looked it up back when I did that, but I'm a PC. And you can search the same way. You can look up media representations, media, whatever, and you should be able to find the weeks that we have done this topic in the past. The blog is not 100% updated up to this day, but it is updated up through last calendar year, I believe, or I might have to finish just the end of 2018. But the end of 2018 till now are pretty recent on the channel, so you should be able to find them right here on YouTube on our channel, and then you can use the blog to maybe more quickly find the videos that we've done, you know, since 2009. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. I will put my most recent video from this channel up here in the corner and something else down here. It might be the most recent video currently uploaded to the channel, might be something else relevant, might be something else from me. I don't know. That's kind of the wild card area. And then you can subscribe to The Pagan Perspective or subscribe to me, and I'll see you next week. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.